After that, the federal government, due to the pressure from the then leadership of Ohanaeze and Igbo and all their concerned Nigerians, the federal government was forced to set up a judicial commission of inquiry headed by His Lordship, Honorable Justice O.O. Goodluck of the Abuja High Court. This commission of inquiry dug in and came up with a lot of issues and facts that indicted these police officers, showing that the then Deputy Commissioner of Police, Danjuma Ibrahim, who was the chief culprit, was really deep into the gruesome murder of this young Charles. But testimonies from both the police, his co-policemen, and some other person, including a guard that was on duty at Syndicate Plaza, which was just near where this thing began at Gimbiya Street, gave testimonies. I was indicted. At the end of the day, they were taken to court. For 12 years, they were in court. And after 12 years, the judge of the Supreme Court gave a judgment that we don't think is favorable. Because the culprits, the main culprits, was set free. And as if it was a slap on the face of justice in Nigeria, and a total renegation of the universal law of fundamental human rights. And the issue, the right to life of individuals. They were set free. Not only was he set free, he was reinstated to the police and promoted to the rank of then AIG. And we have been in good stead that today is a Deputy Inspector General of Police and the directing staff in the Nigerian Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, the premier institution in Nigeria today. Today, the blood of these 6 young men is crying to the heavens. The rule of law is being undermined. The right of appeal was thrown away. Because 2 years after that judgment that is bleeding the hearts of Nigerians, the federal government, represented by the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, Malami, have refused to appeal this judgment and bring justice to the blood of these innocent people. We weep. Today we decided not to demonstrate in the streets, but to silently reawaken this issue. We really want to reawaken this issue, my brethren, so that the blood of these people will find peace in God. And that Nigeria will find her place, a good place in the committee of nations, as a place that have gone beyond the Hobetian states, where people survive. Strong. Nigeria will be seen as a place where the weak. If the Nigerian state refused to reawaken the case here, I think one of the major purposes of this colloquium is to raise up this issue and bring it to the court of international justice. Via media, well orchestrated media followership, and purposeful push in international communities. Nations that have sanctity of human life. That is the reason why taking the pains to put this together. We thank all that are here now, the discussants, all that are following. We should say welcome to the stage, everybody. The solemn day, not just a day for Iswo Igbo, day that we must look into this matter, must review the issues, must look into the judgments, and we must fashion out the way forward so as to put the souls of these innocent young persons to rest. I welcome everyone. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Odozi. Now, who is the next speaker? From the program, who is the next speaker?
Oyi should, Oyi, the moderator, at this point will appoint the next speaker. So we'll let us know the discussants that are here. Then from there, we'll know the ones that
Oyi is yet to be back, but I can see Dr. Sam Amadi. I think. Oh, has he left? I can see it, Sam Amadi. I saw him before, but then unless he has left.
I think Chief Chris Uche is here with us. I can see him. He's the one, Sam iPad PRO. I'm right? Chief, can you unmute?
I'm going to get married to
Chief, can you unmute and let us?
A very good friend of mine. No, as their future daughter-in-law, I should be supporting my in-laws at this time, but I simply can't.
Chief, can you unmute?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, we can hear you, sir, loud and clear.
Okay. Okay. Well, I am Chief Chris Uche. I think I wish the other discussants were available to kickstart this discussion, but let me, because my own slot and my interface with the whole episode should be dovetailed towards the end, which was the prosecution. But first and foremost, since I have the floor, let me begin by commending Odozi and the leadership of Ohaneze for putting together this memorial. And I think it's not just by coincidence that it's coming at the same time that globally there is this huge protest against extrajudicial killing as manifested by what is going on in the United States of America as a result of the death of Mr. George Long in the hands of the US police. And one would wish that the same way Nigerians have shown such enthusiasm in condemning the death of that black man in the hands of the US police, that Nigerians should also condemn such killings, extrajudicial killings, by law enforcement authorities in Nigeria. Now, I am very happy that the APO 6 matter is being discussed, and because I've always said that the APO 6 should not die in vain. I have seeing the APO 6 issue, and when we were called upon to prosecute, one of my commitments was to make sure that this issue was not only brought to the front burner of public discourse, but is retained and sustained so that it might create a deterrent, by being constantly in the minds of people. Now, just like Odozi had said in his intro, this matter, this was as far back as 2005, June 8th, when the 6 innocent Igbo youths, they were cut down, they were brutally murdered. 4 of them on the spot in Gimbiya Street, and the other 2 were extrajudicially executed even after they were brought to the police station. Now, this matter had been swept under the carpet, but so many things happened, and the blood of these innocent young people wailed to high heavens, and this matter had to be reviewed. Let me appreciate the federal government, the leadership, and that was under President Olusegun Obasanjo. I don't know whether that would have happened now, for opening up this matter and setting up the judicial panel of inquiry that unearthed everything, and also the Attorney General at the time, Bayojo, who instructed a team of lawyers to prosecute the culprits after the judicial panel of inquiry had done its work. And also the Inspector General of Police at the time, Mr. Sunday Ehindere, who equally made it possible for these policemen to be prosecuted. Now, my colleagues who I had expected to speak before me, namely Chief Mrs. Obegolu, Adibu, and Amobi, they appeared at the judicial panel of inquiry, and they did enormous work, because at the time, these people were to have been labeled as armed robbers. The police placed guns by their side and got photographers, to get it to the media and portray them as armed robbers. But by virtue of the work of the judicial panel of inquiry, headed by Honorable Justice O. Goodluck of the FCT Judiciary, recommendations were made for the 6 policemen to be prosecuted, consequent upon which the then Attorney General of the Federation and Minister for Justice, Mr. Bayo Ojo, now instructed my humble self and one other senior advocate to prosecute these policemen. One of them, according to the police, escaped, so we had to prosecute 6 of them. And it was a very Herculean assignment. In the first place, this was a move against an institution, and it was a bit unprecedented. And where are the materials we were to work with? Where are the witnesses who were going to be testifying on our behalf against these policemen? All the witnesses were policemen, and all of them were from the same part of the country that the people who were going to try came from. And all the victims were from the, let me put it in quotes, the wrong side of the Federation. Then we set out to prosecute. All the policemen we were to call as witnesses. Remember, before the Goodluck panel of inquiry, they had done their own inquiry at the police station, where they got all these witnesses to say exactly the reverse of what happened. And the police had all these witness statements to confront them when they were now meant to speak the truth. So it wasn't an easy trial at all. We had institutional challenges at every point in time. Even to get the accused persons from Kuje to come to court. So many times we came to court, the accused persons were not produced. And then the judge that was presiding, he also had his own commitments because at a number of times he was also sitting as a judge of the election tribunal. So many reasons that led to the delay in the trial of this case. We had so many hurdles, but we decided we were not going to yield or to surrender. We insisted for 12 years. We called over 20-something witnesses. Some we had to procure at our own expense. Some we had to bring there by subpoena against their wish. And some of the policemen were deliberately transferred out of jurisdiction to make it very difficult for us to get them as witnesses. But luckily, at the end of the day, with our perseverance, we were able to present the case. We had the pictures of these young people who were all brutally executed. We brought witnesses who testified to what happened, particularly those two that were alive at the time they were brought to the station before they were now the DPO and the AC then directed that they should be wasted. We called us these witnesses. However, at the end of the day, the trial judge, who later became the chief judge of the FCT, acquitted the main accused person and convicted the other four, who are still serving term in Kuje prison. But one good thing is that we use that case to make a point. We use that case, as a symbol, as a signpost of the resistance, of the fight against extrajudicial killings. In fact, one of the things we recommended was that even to keep the memory of this event, alive, that Gimbiya Street, where this incident happened, ought to have been renamed APO 6 Street. Well, I'm happy that Ohaneze has shown this interest now. But let me add this. At the time we were prosecuting this matter, you will remember that I was not working as a lawyer for the victims. I was engaged by the federal government as a prosecutor, and my assignment was to prosecute and bring to justice those who committed these atrocities. But we had very, very little support in terms of our own people coming to court. We had very little support, even from Ohaneze, coming to show moral support, and it was not in our place, working for the federal government, to do our own bit and also do what they were supposed to do in terms of making sure that the matter was kept alive. Even the APO traders who initially joined in the initial protest and all that, but somewhere along the line, they didn't keep faith again with the trial. So at a time, we were just going there on our own and prosecuting. But we thank God that eventually there was a verdict. Now, when that judgment came, many people were not happy with the outcome. We too thought that with evidence that we marshaled out before the trial court, that all of them ought to have been convicted. But we had a fiat to prosecute at the high court level. So what we did, because it was the case of the Attorney General of the Federation. So when that judgment was delivered, I think it was on 9th of March, 2017. So within a few days, I think on 15th of March, 2017, we got a copy, a certified true copy of the judgment, and we wrote a letter and delivered to the Attorney General of the Federation, informing him of the judgment and then the options open to the federal government, including an appeal. And we will not be able to proceed beyond our mandate, which was trial at the High Court. And it was in the place of the Attorney General to now take necessary steps to either instruct us or instruct any other lawyer, or even take it upon themselves to appeal, if they so desired, appeal against the judgment. And I think I also had the opportunity to face with some of the leadership of Ohanese who called to ask the way forward. And I advised them to also get in touch with the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation to put some pressure to ensure that the appeal was filed. They had 90 days to appeal, and the 90 days had lapsed, even though there's still provision for extension of time to appeal. But we, at that point in time, we completed our assignment and handed over to the Attorney General of the Federation, and we are still waiting for the Attorney General of the Federation 3 years after, to now decide on the way forward. But one good thing is that we try to make sure that we kept this matter of both in life, both in the media and in the court, and to show that henceforth you cannot kill citizens, no matter where they come from, extrajudicially, and get away with it. We are happy with what is happening all over. The awareness is being created, and I'm happy that at this point in time, Ohanese has decided to do this in order to keep the memory of these gentlemen who have more or less become martyrs of the Igbo cause. I thank you for having us to contribute. It is our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for that contribution. You know, while we are speaking, one would only think that these things in this nation, I mean, I like the way you linked it to George Floyd, what happened. And the one would think many years ago in this nation, human beings were killed extrajudicially. And as you alluded, 2 of them were still alive at the point, you know, they were taken to the stations. And these individuals were killed. And today, we are still demanding justice. That is an unbelievable thing happening in a nation that people could refer to as theirs. On that note, we will be bringing the next speaker. I can see that Dr. Sam Amadi is here. Dr. Sam Amadi, I would be spotlighting you now. If you could please unmute yourself. Yes, excellent. Well done. So you've done that now. And you please, you have the podium. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Go ahead. It's you have the floor. Oh, technology. I think it's somewhat frozen.
It's frozen.
Yes, Oyi, if you're there, unmute yourself. I think you can we have the second person? I don't know if Comrade Samuel Taraba, Barrister Amobi Nzelu. Sorry?
Samuel Tabara, Comrade Samuel Tabara.
Sorry, Tabara. Is he there? Is Tabara there?
I can see him. So
and I think, do we have Amobi?
No, I don't think Nzelu is in.
Do we have Ifeanyi as well?
Amobi is having difficult coming in.
Sorry?
Amobi is having difficult, but he's joining us soon.
I can't see Igbo.
It's not technology compliant. So
no, anyone who is having difficulty to coming in, all he needs to do is open the app, put in the meeting ID and the password. Don't click on the link. It appears the link is somewhat broken. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Dr. Sam
is still frozen. Is still frozen.
Again.
I don't know. It's you know what, Dr. Sam, if you can hear me, what I will do, I will probably kick you out. Sorry to use that word. so you can join back again. But that in that way, it might hard reset your system. I'm not kicking you with my legs, but I'm just, you know, technology-wise, just to get you off. Okay. So, Oyi, over to you now. You can, you know, you can take over.
Thank you very much.
I'm hoping Zelo is here now.
Okay.
I'm hoping Zelo has joined us.
Okay, yes. Okay, Oyi, sorry about that.
Yes.
Amobin Zelu, can you please now, let me spotlight him. Can you please, I know you are just joining and we are putting you on the spot. I'm sorry about that, but can you please go ahead now, sir? Thank you very much. You are on, sir. You are on. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. You are on.
I think his camera is facing the light.
No.
Yeah, touch
no. He's on mute. Sorry. He's unmuted now. So go on. Okay. You're welcome, sir.
Okay.
Welcome.
No, sir. Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah. What is the question?
Your general overview about the case and the
as the lead lawyer.
Yes, as the lead lawyer for the victim.
Can you give us a narrative of what happened and how from the beginning of this issue till the time the case was taken over by the federal government and for prosecution in the High Court, both at the police inquiry and through the Justice Olasumbo Goodluck panel of Judicial Commission of Inquiry? We need to know your view as a legal. What you think, sir? You're welcome, sir. I really don't understand. This incident took place 15 years ago. Each year, there have been issues that have been discussed on this particular matter. For now, because of the lockdown, I'm not even within Abuja. I'm out of Abuja. But the fact still remains that this matter, for all I can tell you, people went through the police panel headed by DIG Michael Kiro. Then they were disbanded. Commission of Inquiry was set up, headed by Honorable Justice Goodluck. We went for 4 months trying to piece together evidence. And there was government white paper. And from government white paper, there was even the autopsy reports of what happened on that particular day of those that were allegedly killed. Trials went on for over 10, 12 years, and at the end of the day, the white paper findings were implemented to its last letters again. And as an attorney, there are certain areas I would not like to dive into. I don't know why this matter is being blown up. Each year is being blown up. Each year is being blown up. I don't really understand. And for me, the needful have been done. I started and ended up at Commission of Inquiry. I was not given that to prosecute them during the criminal trial. And nobody even asked me a question as to what I know about this particular matter. And that is, today, 8th of June each year is a traumatizing during this particular. Facts people want to know, they can easily get across to me, but to popularize this matter, I don't think it's in the interest of the country. That's my own thinking about it. 15 years down the drain, they should allow these boys to rest where they've been buried. Government paid compensations to the family. Bodies were exhumed. Bodies were buried. I don't understand really. You see, I only tried to oblige you people by coming on board. Not because I needed to do it, but because if people want to use this matter to achieve some certain level, they should please excuse Amo Binzalo out of this matter. Yes. All right, one more thing, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes. First of all, I want us to get something straight here. The first issue here is that the blood of these 6 young child will not rest until justice is gotten for them. And you are a veritable part of this case. In fact, your doggedness as a lawyer is one of the things that made this case to get off to the point of the police setting up a panel of inquiry headed by DIG Michael Kiro, to the point of pushing this case to court. After they took it to the government, the federal government now set up the judicial commission of inquiry headed by which recommended that the whole should be tried. It was your push. Sir, what we call this, as you rightly said, for every year in the past 2 years, this issue has been resonating. And why is it resonating? Yes, because the blood of this young child. So let me come. The blood of these young men have not gone. I refuse to rest. Why we have you on the spot today? It's not to put you on the top or anything. But as someone that's an insider, at this point, sorry you weren't here when we did the intro. At this point, we intend to achieve 2 things, sir. Hello, sir. I'm hearing. Hello, sir. We intend to achieve 2 things. 1, we need to reopen this case. 2, we need, if the federal government, through the Office of the Attorney General, doesn't want to reopen this case within the municipal law of the Nigerian state, there are channels and other ways to raise up this issue and take it up to the international committee where life is, there is sanctity to human life. So why we call you, it's not to put on the dock, as you don't say, or for any other reason, but because it is pertinent that at this point, the issue of the gruesome murder of these young men, because they come from a particular part of this country where the life of those people don't matter. That's why we are raising it at this point. It is as you rightly think, it is to get to the end of this thing, to get justice for this young man. Okay. That's the truth. Okay, now so we want to know what transpired at that point. Yes, let me go down the memory lane, because I need to tell the entire world 1 or 2 things they need to know. Okay. One, this matter happened in the early hours of 8th of June 2005. I was there residing at Otako. That's where I have my house, where I was living. And thereafter, I had an encounter. Somebody woke me up in this dream and asked me, Amobi, go and tell the world that these children that were killed were not armed robbers. In that dream, I asked a question. How can I prove it? I was not there at the scene of the incident. The voice said, I'll give you evidence so that they are not armed robbers. I said, what about my security? He said, on account of this and thereafter, not you nor your family or sibling actually attacked on account of what I'm going to do. I will pay you. That was what actually motivated me, because many lawyers ran out of this matter. They didn't want to get involved. But because of the nature of the matter, God used me. First of all, I give thanks to God Almighty for keeping me alive 15 years after to state this story. DIG Michael Kiro was heading a panel that had 4 other members on it. Until the date we reviewed the photographs of how they were killed, that was when Obasanjo, then President of Nigeria, disbanded that commission of inquiry, that police service, police inquiry board headed by DIG Michael Kiro, and set up judicial commission of inquiry headed by a serving judge of the FCT High Court, Justice Goodluck. They have DIG or Padosai, they retired as a member. They have Nwokike as a member. They have Brigadier General Okumbo, who later retired as a Major General, who I just passed on quite some months ago, and Hawa Baba. a female there. That was how the Commission of Inquiry was set up. We went into evidence. The evidence we are overwhelming. At the end of the day, they recommended, and have the white paper, they recommended that 8 people should be prosecuted. In the course of doing this thing, in the course of doing this inquiry, the DPO Garriki, Ottoman, CSP Ottoman, escaped from custody of the police. Those that made him to escape today never faced any trial. At the end of it, the white paper was released. Paper was released and the government actually applied the recommendation. First, bodies were released to me for their proper burial. Because 50 days after they were buried, they were exhumed on the orders of the Commission of Inquiry. Bodies were exhumed, preserved in Garriki Hospital. Number 2, government ordered them, each of them, to pay 3 million naira family as compensation. Since 1960, this was Commission of Inquiry that government, that police has owned up and paid compensation. Number 3, they recommended that Gimbiya should be named after them. Government said no. If any woman passes there and sees Apple 6th Street, it will remind them of that sad event. Number 4, they recommended 8 people for trial. The DPO escaped, others were arraigned in court. They went through the normal trial, and then after 10 or 11 years after they were tried, they were discharged and acquitted. Only 2, Chinedu was actually sentenced to death because he admitted that he shot them. Emmanuel Baba was equally sentenced to death. Others were allowed to go discharged and acquitted. Government wrote an apology to the family and to the family of the deceased that was an inappropriate act on the part of the police to have done what they did that night. And there was an undertaking, an agreement between the family and the police that at the end of this compensation, this issue will not be reopened again, having to pay them 3 million naira each family, and that those recommended should be accordingly charged to court. They went to trial in the courts, and after many years, they were discharged and acquitted. The question is, with that agreement in the file, that this matter will not be reopened again, what is the locus of opening They were all scared out of the matter. But because I knew who sent me, that was why I made it clear to each of them that I'm an assignment for God. I was an assignment for God on that particular issue. So the question still remains, each year, if you want to, or we want to do one or two things, we rake this thing up again. These boys should be allowed to rest where they've been buried ceremoniously, because the bodies were exhumed and packaged and given to us. But if the federal government want to revisit that issue to that of Abiola, it's now left for us to do an in-house letter to them that what was given to them that day was not enough to assuage the pains the family went. Different ball game. We can do that letter. I can do that letter. I can follow it up. I can get the AG.
Let me see the other participants.
Okay. Hello. Thank you very much, sir. There's a particular angle to this that I am looking at critically.
Okay.
That angle is that what were the reasons proffered for the federal government not pursuing the appeal or deciding to develop cold feet in pursuing the appeal? Because that is where the snag is. If the federal government, we are the prosecutors at that time, had pursued the appeal, maybe we will not be revisiting this matter every 8th of June. So the question is, did from your side, that is the defense lawyers, the prosecuting lawyers for the victims, did you try to find out why the federal government did not appeal that judgment?
Okay. Now I told you, my brother, that my job started and ended with Commission of Inquiry. When it was time to prosecute them, the federal government under Bayojo, the then Attorney General of the Federation, refused or did not give me fiat to prosecute on behalf of the federal government. What they did was they got two lawyers, this Uche SAN and one Usman. Two of them were brought in by the federal government and given the fiat to prosecute on their behalf. These are two SAN. They were paid for the job done. So it is not within my province as Amo Binzelo to go and question the federal government why they don't appeal. It is for the lawyers. It was for the prosecuting lawyers to take up the appeal because they've been paid for the brief. It is not me. That is busybody. My job started and ended Commission of Inquiry. And what God asked me to establish, I've been established. So it is for the prosecuting counsel in the matter to take up this matter and ask and go on appeal. It's not Amobi Nzel, and I've said it to you people that none of the two SN called me and said, Amobi, what do you know we don't do in this matter? Nobody asked me. Nobody asked me till today. You see, so it is for them. It is for them.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Mate is okay. If you're still there, Odozi.
Yes.
We'll listen to Dr. Sam Amadi, and then maybe we'll have to come back to
before we go to Dr. Sam. Before we go to Dr. Sam, I would like to ask just a little question.
Okay.
Directly to Chipamo. Chief, sir, you mentioned the issue of compensation being paid to this family.
3 million.
3 million each. Yes. That if there is, once they receive the money, the case should be closed. I think that should be at the level of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry. Is it part of our statutes that in order to set culprits that are committed to some murders, that they can be people can be compensated and the culprit set free? That is one. Two, the issue of the reinstatement of the chief culprit, Danjuma Ibrahim. The time he was, as a lawyer, at least you should know a little about this. And you mentioned the status of the civil service. Does the civil service status make room that somebody that has been out of the service for 13 years and has missed the ranks where he's supposed to write exams to be promoted, will come back after 13 years and his promotion accelerated to the rank of, to the management, the top post management rank of the Nigerian police. Is that also part of the civil services status? Just give us a short answer to this.
Okay, now the issue you asked me whether somebody can be bought off, avoid criminal prosecution, that is not proper. They were prosecuted. The money was given to them to compensate them for the loss of their loved ones. That was what they were paid for. Not that they will not be prosecuted criminally, because they were charged to court and tried for 12 years. That is the issue. Now, if you get back to the civil service law, if somebody, an officer, is on interdiction, remember one thing, the man was on interdiction throughout this period, though. They never dismissed him. But I know that some cases in police where such an offense gets instant dismissal and before you proceed for trial, but he was on interdiction. So at the end of the trial of maybe so it's a senior officer, they looked at the civil service rule. He has gone through the legal gamut and they found him not guilty. Is it not right for him to pay for what he had been discharged and acquitted by a court of law? They said no. We recall him back. You see, the promotions in the police are guided by some rules that are not known to Amobins. But I'm talking strictly legally. There may be some considerations. He came in, he was deputy commissioner of police. They gave him CP and they gave him AIG before he retired. The question I'm asking is that for 12 years, he was not in service. And when he came in, they promoted him 2 rounds before he was retired because he got to the age of 60. I don't know what governed them. Somebody should ask Michael Kiro, who was then the chairman of the Police Service Commission, who was even the DIG, the chairman of the Police Commission of Empire that was disbanded. Why such a happening? I cannot give an answer to the police. I'm not in the team that does promotion for the police. Somebody can be compensated and still take on the criminal aspect of it. That is my short answer to this matter.
Okay.
I want to sign off because I'm not in Abuja.
You're locked down. You're locked down. Just 2 minutes.
Don't go off.
Yes, I'm on lockdown.
Yes,
2 minutes.
enjoy your lockdown with us. Let's have the pleasure of having you enjoy lockdown with us.
Okay.
2 minutes. 2 more minutes.
This is live.
2 more minutes.
Yes.
Dr. Sam. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
But I want to join someone.
You're welcome, sir.
The room is disturbing it, sir. No, you don't crack it. They're trying to get that Solomon.
Dr. Amadi, if you can hear us, we can see your lips move. It appears your speaker has some issues.
Your mic.
Or your mic. You have unmuted yourself, but we can't hear. We can see your lips move.
I think it's raining. It's raining in Abuja. Maybe that's part of the reason why the network seems to be very erratic here in Abuja. So, while we are waiting for Dr. Sam to get his audio back on stream, maybe we need to get back to Chief. Okay, I think he's on. Yeah.
No.
Your lips are still moving without sound.
Dr. Sam, it appears we can read your mind. You know, your lips are moving, but try again. Try once more. It's technology.
Yes, it happens. So, Mazezuka, I think while we are waiting for Dr. Sam to fix his audio, maybe Chief Chris Uche can give us an insight into what Chief Wamobin Zelo tried to speak about. The reasons why the prosecuting lawyers, the two sons, thought it wise not to proceed with the appeal. I think it would be good to hear from him directly, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Well, sir.
Yes. If you recall, before Barrister Mobi spoke, when I made my comments, I think I answered that question when I said that after the conclusion of our exercise, the assignment given to us, which was specific and which every lawyer knows that if you are given a fiat, an authority to prosecute, is to prosecute a particular offense in a particular level of court. We were briefed to prosecute the matter before the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, which exercise we completed, and upon completion of that exercise, we returned the product back to the person that engaged us, which is the federal government. I told you we wrote a letter. We completed the case on 9th of March 2017. We got the certified true copy of the judgment on 14th of March 2017, and by a letter of 15 March 2017, we submitted our report to the Attorney General, informing him we've completed the assignment, and the next stage is for them to instruct the next because it is not for us to dictate to them at that point who to instruct. So I made that very clear. And let me quickly add that the three guesses or speculations made by Barrister Mobi are all erroneous. One, it was never because we reviewed the case and saw that there was no ground to proceed. No, that was not the case. And that Attorney General was pen. Then secondly, it had nothing to do with fees because we had not even been engaged to appeal, let alone to talk about fees. Even the one we did at the High Court, it was not for fees. We made huge personal sacrifices in order to prosecute such a case for that length of time. And thirdly, he said there could have been certain political considerations.
Political undertones, yes.
Yes, that is extremely erroneous. And coming from him, it's very unfortunate because we cannot take, as professionals engaged to prosecute, we cannot take political decisions. If there are political considerations, maybe that could belong to the realm controlled by the politicians. But as the prosecuting counsel, we could not decide based on political considerations to prosecute or not to prosecute, to appeal or not to appeal. So that is completely incorrect. This assignment, in fact, like I tried to explain graphically when I spoke, there were 3 stages of this APO matter. First was the police inquiry, which Michael Kiro headed, and which was disbanded. I spoke about that. And after that was the judicial panel of inquiry headed by Goodluck, Justice Goodluck. And that was where Amobi, my colleague, and Chief Mrs. Obegolu featured and appeared on behalf of the families of the victim. They were personal lawyers to the victims. Therefore, when the matter now came to prosecution on behalf of the federal government, it was not for them to dictate to the federal government that the federal government must engage him to prosecute. You heard him say that they refused to give him the plan to prosecute. And I don't think that should in any way, affect whatever is his input or his attitude to this matter. He did his own, he played his own part at the panel of inquiry, and which is very commendable. And it was after he did that, he finished, because it's like a relay race. He had completed his assignment, and then the federal government felt, because at this point in time, it was necessary to retain senior advocates to prosecute at that level, given the high profile nature of the matter and the very weighty issues involved, and also the defense counsel engaged by the accused persons, and they engaged senior advocates too. So that was their personal decision. He completed his own case, and we now did our own bit. But just in summary, the entire matter of APO 6 is not one that anybody can sweep under the carpet. This is something that, yes, it's not one that can be swept under the carpet. I believe that it is one that will help this nation, and not just the Igbo nation, the entire country, to stand against extrajudicial killing. And that is one thing that is remarkable. There was national public uproar when this happened. And we want the nation to always look back and remember and say, no, this will never happen again.
Hello, are you hearing me now?
Hello, yes.
Are you hearing me?
Thank you very much, Chief Chris Uche. Thank you very much for that expose. Dr. Sam, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, very well, very well. Chief Uche, I'll come back to you, but let's listen to Dr. Sam first, then I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think that I'm happy that I have Barrister Chris Uche and my in-law, Amobi. I think what I've just said briefly is that 3 points I want to highlight. One is that
Hello?
I think his internet is really
it's wobbly.
Is
very, very wobbly.
So you can, I don't know if other speakers are there, then maybe when...
Yes, Odozi is Adibo in. Odozi?
Hello, Adibo is having challenges. Yes. So she says she will join us if she's feeling strong. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So who else?
Thank you very much. Mad is okay?
Yes, who else is on?
I think Tabara seems to be having challenges as well. So, Chief Priest Uche, you seem to be the man that to help us a lot this evening with some of the facts and the information. And I'm grateful for your time that you've actually made available this evening so that we can deal with this. And I'm very happy that you made a very good statement that this is not going to be swept under the carpet, which is a deviation from what Chief Amobi Nzelo feels, that we should allow the boys to rest in their graves where they've been put. I think I am aligned with your view that we should not sweep this under the carpet. And that brings us to the point where we would ask you directly as the senior advocate of the Federal Republic, is there any opportunity for us to open up this thing and push for an appeal or a review so that we can actually, you see, judgment, when justice is not served, it has a lot of ripple effect. We remember the APO 8. This is the APO 6 we are talking about. There's the APO 8. The people that were shot in an uncompleted building by the DSS with the help of the army in an operation. They were given 10 million and some other because now what we're interested in is it possible to actually follow up on this case and then to find out those two people that were sentenced to death, what actually happened? Did they get the sentence carried out, or they are still awaiting to carry out that death sentence? These are some of the issues. Maybe if some of these things are laid to rest, it will help us start framing our minds like Chief Amobi wants us to do, leave the boys in the grave to rest. Thank you very much. So one is there grounds, are there grounds for us to continue with this for a review or an appeal? And then what has happened to, we know you have privileged information. What has happened to those two that were sentenced to death? We would like to know, sir.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, there is a right of appeal against the judgment of the High Court. And that right is exercisable within 3 months in the case of a final judgment such as this. Where the 3 months elapse and the aggrieved person does not appeal, you can still apply to the Court of Appeals for an enlargement or extension of time to appeal. So there is still room for the federal government to appeal. It is only the federal government that can appeal. But what any interested person can do is to approach the federal government either by way of plea or by way of pressure to get the federal government to appeal against the judgment. It is still possible. All that is required to be done is to adduce good and substantial reason for the delay. Once that in appealing is explained, the Court of Appeal, particularly in a matter of this nature, will exercise its discretion to enlarge the time to appeal. Therefore, the matter is still appealable. The federal government can, if they decide to appeal. But that discretion rests entirely with the Attorney General of the Federation to decide whether to appeal or not. Now, as to the second issue, I'm aware that those other convicts have appealed. Their appeals are still pending. I wouldn't know what the federal government is doing with these appeals, but I'm aware that the appeals are still pending. So any interested party or person can either go to the Court of Appeal at Abuja, where please approach the Federal Ministry of Justice for more information. But I'm aware they appeal, that those appeals are pending. And as long as the appeals are pending, those sentences will not be executed.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm talking about the arresting in their graves. Yeah, I think what will get everybody arrested, including those that are victims, particularly the victims, is to see that justice is done in this matter. So if we accept is justice, then we rest on our oars as far as this matter is concerned. And I think it's also a wrong extrajudicial murders killings can take place, and once monetary compensation is made, that should be the end of the matter. Because this was one of the challenges we had in getting the witnesses, any of the witnesses. Like Ambobi knows, he is a lawyer to the family. Not even one member of the family came to the court to testify or to follow the proceedings because they felt they had been compensated. And when things like that happen, how do you expect the wheel of justice to grind successfully to a very victorious output? So I don't believe that mere monetary compensation will take the place of a human life. Otherwise, you have these things recurring. The message and the mission and the entire purpose of this apostasy case is to bring to an end extrajudicial killings, to make anybody who is in a position to kill to think twice, to think of consequences, to know there will be consequences before shooting indiscriminately. And that is what we set out to achieve, and that is what we think our process has done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. You really put the issue in perspective. I would want to find out if Dr. Sam is on now. Dr. Sam? Dr. Sam? Oh. Dr. Sam is still having challenges. Okay. Now, I think we are getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere. We have two options open to us now. One is to engage with the federal government to go for the appeal. The second one is to mount pressure while engaging with them to do that. I believe that we would explore those two options as people who value lives. And on the matter of the appeal by those who were sentenced, which is their fundamental human right to appeal in that case, we have some information that for quite some time now, for some years, it has been from one lawyer to another. It looks like there's a deliberate attempt to delay justice. I understand from some of the investigations we've made that there's this back and forth with change of lawyers by the convicted persons, which has caused a lot of delays. And then because most people feel these boys and the lady, Augustina, should rest in their graves, nobody has actually put pressure on the system to make sure that such things are not used as delay tactics. Now, we'll want to find out from you, sir, is there a willingness and a commitment if we want to push this thing from you, from your angle? Would you be able to offer your services? You've started that already, and we believe that from all you've said this evening, I have a very strong and deep conviction that you believe that justice must be given in this matter. We want to find out if you can be of help to assist, the processes so that we can get this on stream again and then find justice for these people so they can truly rest in peace. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, thank you. Let me repeat. I was professionally engaged by the federal government to prosecute on behalf of the federal government. And that is what I did. So until and unless the federal government engages me to continue with any of these stages, either to appeal or to appear in respect of these the appeals by the convicts. Because these appeals by the convicts, once they file the appeals, they will be served on the Federal Ministry of Justice. And it behoves on the Attorney General to now assign the same to either a lawyer in the ministry or to external counsel to deal with. So it may be practically impossible for me to
be on this side.
Yeah, yes, on any other side except the side that will pay me in this matter. It will not be professionally ethical for me to do. Yeah, so if federal government engages me and instructs me and gives me a fiat to either appeal or to appear in the matter, then it will not
on their behalf.
Yes, it will be.
Yes. Okay, then. Dr. Sam, thank you very much. You've been of great help to the discussion this evening. Dr. Sam.
Can I exit? I went, okay.
Please, just a few minutes. Let's see if Dr. Sam can come in and then.
He's an intellectual I like to listen to. Yes, please let me do it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Mazi is okay. Mazi is okay.
Yes.
Are you there? Let me get behind and then speak with Sam and then some of the people that are having challenges. I'll be back in a short while.
Okay, so on that note, where is Odozi? Odozi can take over from you while, because I think Odozi has some...
Odozi?
Unless... Okay.
And then if other people might have questions, maybe you can handle that while I'm off for a while.
Okay. So if anybody has any question you can raise, as usual, you can raise your hand using the provision made by this platform. If you want to ask questions for clarifications, then please, you can do that. I don't know if Mr. Nzelo is still here, if he has anything to add to the things said so far. I can't seem to see Nzelo anymore. I don't know, maybe he has dropped. Maybe. No, I think he has dropped. So now if you want to ask questions, you can please raise up your hand and you can be called upon to ask your questions. Wow. This is okay. We have Anye Bunamo Okoye. Anye Bunamo Okoye, you can now unmute your mic and speak, please. Anye Bunamo Okoye, please unmute your mic.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead. We can see your lips moving, but we can't hear you.
I am talking. I'm unmuted.
Okay.
I think it's
we can hear you
network.
now.
We can hear you. Okay. Appreciate everybody here. Thank you. We have a communique I've suggested, since I appreciate and I thank Chris Richard, the senior advocate, for giving us the idea that we still have a window. I will think we make three-people committee to pursue the human rights aspect of this, either from the pressure side or engaging the government. So please, it's a question and it's a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And at the same time, I have Uchechukwu Eze. Uchechukwu Eze, I think from Iceland. Ask your question, please.
Okay, thank you. Sir, I really appreciate your effort in this issue. My question goes this way. You advised us to approach High Court to get extension. On that extension, do you have any timeline as when you approach it and how long it can elapse before expires? Because okay, I don't know much about law, but I just need insight about this process so that we know where we start. Because in Igbo said, so that's my question. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. So, Senior Advocate, can you take that question, please?
Yes. Okay, put me on.
Yes, your answer.
Okay. Yes, Eze. Like I said, we have 3 months from the judgment, the final judgment, 90 days to appeal. Obviously, from March 2017 to now, June 2020, is already more than the 3 months. It's even more than 3 years. But the law still allows you a window. All that you are required to do is to come up with very substantial, good, and reasonable explanation for your delay. You have to give good reason why you did not take necessary steps to appeal within the timelines allowed by the law, which in this case would have been 3 months. So once you're able to explain to the court that, well, you would have appealed, but for this reason or that reason, you were unable to do so. But now you have taken necessary steps, you exhibit a notice of the proposed notice of appeal, give good grounds for challenging the judgment and all that. In many cases, the appeal court will entertain such extension of time and hear your appeal and have the matter determined on the merit rather than you being shut out or denied the exercise of your constitutional right, notwithstanding that you were late in exercising that right. So, in summary, there is still a chance. The timeline is 3 months, but 3 months having elapsed, you can still appeal by showing and demonstrating good excuses and reasons why you did not appeal within the set down 3 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that quick clarification. Now, do we have any other person who's got any question, please? While Oyi is working on the back end to see if the other participants are going to come. So I have Ifeanyi Mbadinuju. So Ifeanyi Mbadinuju.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Ifeanyi Mbadinuju.
Okay.
I never knew anything about this case, but the title, I found the notice on the title and it got my attention. The question to San is, would the family's consent be required before this case is opened on human rights ground, or can that be ignored?
Well, on human rights ground, you will require their consent if you want to pursue the matter on their behalf from the human rights perspective. But on the legal ground, on the grounds of going to court, their consent is not required. It's a court process, it's an appeal. All that requires to be done is for the federal government to authorize the further prosecution on appeal. So that aspect does not require their consent. But if you want to champion whatever has happened to them on the human rights angle, then you will require the family's consent.
So am I right to say that before, because someone mentioned about setting up a panel to pursue the matter, before that takes place or takes effect, the family must be, or families must be consulted to tell them what the public wants to do?
Well, if I understood him, I think it's the court process, the appeal, that he was recommending the setting up of a panel to prosecute. But whichever way, I think it's good to carry the family along. But, yes, even if it is not mandatory, but I think it's good to carry everybody along so that we'll all be on the same page.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
so,
can I come and have a question?
sorry, okay, who is speaking, please?
Odozi is my name.
Okay, Odozi, Odozi, please, before you go on, I think Maz is okay here. Thank you, our Ebu son. Now, I am, okay, I put my comments this way. What is now being, or what is the need to reopen this case? Is it based on the fact that the amount that was paid to the family is little, or that the two individuals that were said to be, that have basically got death sentence, is it that because they've not been hanged, or that, one of the, as you alluded, like naming streets after them, maybe national monument after them, in order for something like that never to repeat again? Because again, we need to maybe get more clarifications on the ground of probably approaching the, the court or the government to say, okay, these things need to be revisited. Anyone can take that question anyway. I mean, I think it's something that needs to be said openly. So, San, are you able to make input on there before you comes in?
Okay. I can make an input with respect to the legal process, which is the area that concerns my assignment. You can appeal because you feel aggrieved with the outcome of the judgment. So I can only speak about the process of appealing against the judgment. But with respect to the other aspects about compensation, those are aspects that had nothing to do with the court trial. Those are aspects that don't relate to the prosecution of the offense before the High Court. So I may not be able to comment on that. I was not involved in the process that led to the compensation. All that happened prior to the trial. And also, even things like naming the streets, these are extra-legal issues that I will not be competent to comment on. I would like to speak, and I'll be able to speak on things that will concern the trial itself or any other further step in the legal process, such as an appeal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
yes, Mike?
I think I understand your point. What we are doing now is based on the grounds of aggrievement.
Yes.
We do not feel that the matter was handled in a way that would make them rest in peace. And based on that, that's why we are saying we want to ask questions. We want to push for government to move to the appeal stage. And then if they go through the appeal, and we still want to push to the Supreme Court, if they are not satisfied, we can push to that end. And then when we end up at the Supreme Court, then we can actually say the law has taken its course. But if for any reason, because we do not know why the government did not push for the appeal, whether it was political or whether they felt there's some people who are highly placed were involved or there were some issues, we do not know the facts behind the reasons for not going for the appeal. So based on the fact that we agree that human lives were snuffed out for no good reason, and then people were let off the hook, and people are still wasting time because the system allows it, playing left, right, trying to buy time over the appeal for the sentence that had been handed down already to the two that were convicted and found guilty and died by hanging. So we feel that there's a need to really make these people rest. It is not about the compensation. That is what their families have agreed to, and we do not know the conditions before they agreed to that. We are not there. So we do not want to go into that. What we are looking at is making justice happen. That is just what we are interested in. Okay.
Yeah, that is perfectly okay. And that is where a pressure group like yours comes in. We cannot stay here and speculate as to the reason why the Federal Ministry of Justice has not gone on appeal. But if a pressure group, an interested group, goes to either the Director of Public Prosecutions or to the Attorney General of the Federation, they'll be able to sit down with him and say, hey, this matter, we are interested and we want this matter to proceed further. There is still the Court of Appeal, there is still the Supreme Court. And it's necessary. It's only when such steps are taken that we will be in a position to know what next to do. The Constitution allows you up to Supreme Court to ventilate your grievance against this judgment. And I think that window of opportunity is still open. And until we exploit it, we may not know why it has not been taken up. Okay.
Thank you very much. So, where are you?
Can I come in? Dr. Sam is going to in 2 minutes' time. He had to move from where he was to another point. So
okay, Dr. Sam is back, please.
Okay, are you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, loud and clear.
I'm sorry, I have to my internet spoiled and they are fixing it. Then I used my phone, it wasn't working because of the day, but I'm now on network, Grand Line, so I'm okay. Yeah, so 3 points I'd like to make. I said first is that the politics of the trial is very important to understand, which is that the context in which the trial is part of the great professional skills of the SAN and the great job they did. The point is that we should always know that the government didn't have enough incentive to go ahead with the trial in the way we want it. So maybe if you had a better political organization and better engagement, maybe outcomes would be slightly different. Secondly, I've had people talk about why didn't they prosecute, even though the council or record, the prosecuting council will be the one to determine the legality. But of course, it's the government that will decide whether to appeal or not appeal. It's the Attorney General who has to instruct Chief Christie and others, or whoever else, to say, let's appeal against judgment. So my point is that we shouldn't take this case in isolation of the order, the entrenched impunity, and the fact that our people have been victim of state murder. It happened that these officers are, perhaps the way they did it was too roguish, but essentially, it doesn't deviate from the fact whether it's a Kaloka or that is the same pattern, a pattern of public officials leveraging on their position to either terrorize or kill persons who one, or two, maybe come from unless we are still a society that is defined by ethnic religious prerogatives, trumping common citizenship. That's the basis. So all these actions should be read from the prison that the Nigerian state has been complicit, either by not effectively punishing impunity, and especially when it involves taking life of citizens, especially those who are not from privileged socioeconomic or ethnic religious groups. So we should, that's number one. Number two is that I think we should, I heard from what's his name, from the lawyers that maybe we can't at this stage try to go back and talk about the case. I think it was Ahmed who said the case, we can't go about the case about prosecuted. I think we should keep, are you hearing me?
Yeah, there's interference, but you can hear you. There's interference in the background, but we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, it's not from this side. So I think what that means for us is that we should look for political trial cannot go ahead. The people have been convicted, the rest are discharged, acquitted, government did appeal, and we have nothing we can do. But I take the view that we should use this a movement against impunity, against singling out Igbos for killing. So we should look at the political side of it. Let's see the trial. Yes, they have been convicted and they have been discharged and acquitted. But the critical thing now is how do we communicate APO 6? The idea of their name is very important. But more important is that Anese and some of us should see it as never again. Just like we have
is on the line.
Yes, just as to have the Jewish memorial, where the names of all those who were killed in Jewish during the program, during the genocide, are all identified one by one. So it should be a commemoration for us. So let me look at number one, the politics of this trial. Very government not fully go out to punish those who killed the APO 6. It's expected that there will be some degree of impunity and some degree of political pullback. The second point I want to make is that if we are as smart, active as we are today, maybe the outcome would have been different. The third point I want to make is that as part of the judicial settlement of the matter, I am of the view that we should continue to celebrate APO 6, not in terms of the individuals now. Like Abubi said, let them sleep. No, it's not true. Let them go and sleep in peace. They're already in peace. It's now a collective memory. It's now a collective, it's a collective failure on our own part. We should always memorize it as an incident that dramatizes Nigeria government's failure, the state failure to protect the common citizenship of Igbo people. So I will of the view that we should now see this APO 6 as more of a political event that we used to tell the story to say never again. And in telling this story, it's a way of demonizing those who are involved. The power of narrative can be more powerful than even of judicial justice. The power of communal narrative, the power of communal rejection. So each time we do APO 6, we are saying that we know what happened, that we know that these people were killed and that the law did not fully justify them, and the law did not fully address that very wicked killing of these young men and ladies. So my final word will be that this is a great event, especially with social media now. Everybody knows that, look, we've not forgotten. We've not forgotten that on a particular day, some people, Nigerians and Igbos mainly, were killed wantonly, and that the state did not transparently and forcefully prosecute those who killed them. And I want to use it as a benchmark to always say never again. And we will now be more organized in future events to be politically active in the trial to ensure that those who kill Igbos or even other Nigerians in another circumstance like this will not ever escape justice. So I think it's a great political commemoration, and I sign up. I think that's well spent. I think the politics was not properly managed. I think the lawyers, obviously they are professionals, did a great job, but this kind of trial has very high level political dimension. Even the US, there are many people who kill blacks, several killings, police killings that they didn't have justice. The state is a massive killer. The state itself is a very, very unreliable. You can't trust the state. The state can kill, can cover up, especially the Nigerian state that is an ethno-religious, captures a state that is unprivileged, unstatus, a state that has no egalitarian pretension. It's not a state you can trust that it will, on its own, fully, transparently do justice to this kind of situation. So I want us to bear in mind that this is rather probably predictable that the Nigerian state will be half-hearted in doing what I even comment MOB, partly the noise they made and the shouts and the struggle, and of course the trial lawyers, the prosecutors, for maybe the convictions they had, going by the character of the Nigerian state and the history of its connivance and sometimes condonment of this kind of killing against especially Igbos and other Nigerians who are not privileged, either socio-cultural, socio-economic or ethnic Nigerians who are not privileged. The history of Nigerian state in this matters has been very, very deplorable. So really, I think we got some justice. We got some success. It's for us now to build on that, to commemorate this and send enough message that we are watching at. We're not happy. We're not satisfied. We are still asking for justice now as a class, not just for those individuals. Probably their parents have been paid some money. They're dead. They're buried. They have been forgotten. But they symbolize for us a collective victimization. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam. You're able to come back. That is okay.
Thank you. I think thank you very much, Dr. Sam. I think Sylvia Kuta is raising his hand, and I think Mr. Amobi is back on. So if Sylvia can ask your question, then we can go back to Amobi, then we'll wrap it up. I don't know what, but we need to start wrapping it up.
I have a question.
So sorry, if you have a question, you raise up your hand using the system for this to be coordinated, please. Sylvia Akuta has the floor now. Akuta, go on.
Hi, good evening, son.
Good evening.
My name is Sylvia Akuta. I'm calling from UK, Leicester, UK. Dalo. I have a simple question to ask. Is it possible to have like the court judgment and the white papers available?
Sure. Answer is yes. They should be available. They're public documents. Even the lawyers or third party can go and apply for them. The court one, you can go and apply for court records. They will probably oblige you. The one of the tribunal, the white paper, should be in government custody, should be in public record. They should have available to every Nigerian on perhaps some process.
And to add to that, the documents are available. If you require them, you can contact the host. It will be made available. But it's public document, both the judgment itself and the government white paper. The government white paper will even tender at the trial. So it's part of the records. It's available.
Okay, I think in matters like this, moving on from now, I think it's important to have the documents available and online too. So it will help in anything moving on forward from now. I think it would be very useful to have the documents for everyone to have a read and then understand the whole thing that happened from the beginning to the end now.
Okay. Well, what you have is the judgment, but the judgment will not capture the entire process. It will not capture the proceedings. It will just tell you the summation as made by the judge. That's what will be the judgment. Even the government white paper is only the portion of the recommendations of panel that incorporated in the government white paper. But at least it's better than some Trinity people.
I think Odozi is raising his hand. Odozi, you are unmuted yourself. Go ahead.
So I'm thinking.
Okay, can I go on now?
Yes, you can go on.
Okay, please. I have a question for Dr. Sam. My question is this: knowing, just like Dr. Sam has deposited, as the Nigerian state is ethno-religious in nature, in everything they pursue at present. And whether we like it or not, we must be straight in hitting this nail. The judgment that was given out to the culprits is ethnocentric, ethno-religious in bent. Now, I am of the view that we cannot get justice within the municipal law of Nigeria. Knowing the fact that the Attorney General of the Federation, 2 years after this judgment that had an outcry, have not deemed it fit to appeal this case. Now, there are windows beyond the confines of the Nigerian state. Windows that are enshrined in both the AU and the UN Charter on human rights and the right to life. As lawyers, now Barrister Spamo Binzelu and Chief Bisuche, as lawyers, how can we explore those windows that are open to us outside the bounds of the Nigerian municipal laws? That's that's the angle I want us to look at. Thank you.
Is it for me or for Chris?
Okay. Who are you directing the question to? Is it to okay, Dr. Sam?
Dr. Sam, you are not only a legal practitioner, you are also a teacher, a teacher of the law. So I know that at least you'll be on the same page with contemporary situation now in the Christian community. What are the windows open for us outside the municipal laws of Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. First, there's no relief that will result in the conviction of individuals outside the municipal criminal law system. But it can build up into documentations of government's atrocious behavior, especially in the context of failure to uphold some of their international covenants regarding making equal treatment of citizens, effective remedies. So there are three ways. One is that this matter has gone through prosecution by two senior advocates, and the courts, a valid court in the land, has pronounced them guilty and discharged. So from a legal point of view, the municipal law had run its course. The second thing we can do is, if you go to the international, it will be maybe on the basis of convention party treaties, Nigeria's commitment to international treaties and their failure. So, for example, as when we are making a case, if IPOB is making a case for anything like maybe persecution of the Southeast or Igbos, this can be part of facts to show that the Nigerian legal system did not effective what they call effective remedies. So it can be a matter for arguments, matter of persuasion, building up a dossier of the failures of the Nigerian state. But it will not be a strong case for international intervention to either ask for compensation, except we show that the Nigerian criminal trial was basically a routine one, was superficial, and was not effective remedy. So the point is that it's an uphill task for us to go to whether the UN system or the ECOWAS system to say that we need a retrial, or we need those courts to force Nigeria to pay damages for breach of right to effective remedy. We really need to prove a lot, because for the account of the trial, this was arguably a trial, just like Kensington White's case. We are part of the lawyers. And the argument at the point was Ken didn't want us to come in. They said the government will use us to basically sanctify what they call judicial murder. Government has made up its mind what it wants. So use that process to say, well, these guys had great lawyers, they had a trial, and they were found guilty. But because during the trial, we got the British Council and the Bar Association to come and observe the trial, and they issued a report. The trial was a dangerous, a bad war. So my argument will be that we can only use it as persuasive argument in arguing against the Nigerian state for possible breach of international agreement. That's what we can do.
So basically, what you're saying is that any move that is outside of laws is just for us to build up cases against such that in the past and expose that will come in the future. If that would be, but not on the basis of getting any conviction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we went to a trial, it was a full trial, and then arguably they were held judicial, domestic, municipal court.
Yeah. I think we should be rounding up, and with the comments from Chief Uche-san, maybe would gradually be rolling to the end of the show.
I think, Oyi, I think maybe we would have to give Amobin Zelo opportunity to make
he's back on. Okay.
Yes, he's back on. Maybe to use the opportunity to make a closing remark. If it's possible, yes, he's on now. You can unmute yourself, then you should be back on.
Yes.
Yes.
You see, yeah.
Go ahead.
The event of 8th of June 2005 would never depart from the memories of most of us that saw or that went through the trial or saw what happened during the trials. But there are some certain facts that may be hidden to the entire world unless somebody musters up the courage to speak out on this particular issue. First of all, I did not say that they refused to give me fiat. I said they did not give me fiat. I talked of political consideration, not as it affects the lawyer, Chief Chris Uche SAN, but I knew why I made that statement. And for a lawyer to go on appeal, somebody must instruct the lawyer, and fees are to be attached to it. All I'm saying, and I still maintain, is that we can form a pressure group and go back to the government and ask them to look at this matter again in terms of compensation. In terms of the criminal prosecution, we have two courts that are ahead of us, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. And all I'm saying again is that this matter is beyond what we are looking at. If you make inquiries downstairs, you will know who was the shorty in the bail granted to one of the suspects. If you look in between lines, you see, because of what I know, this is that I know. That's why when I say something, I said there are much more to it that could meet the eyes. APO killing is a very sad development. A DPO in Nsukka killed somebody, 2 Igbos. He was brought to Abuja in a handcuff, Superintendent of Police. He was kept outside Area 10 Force Headquarters. One of the retired AIGs came to ask for his bail. He was told that it is impossible that this man will face first-degree murder. He came out and saw the man sitting under a fruit in that area 10 near Agra Hotel and told him that it appears this matter is beyond what they can comprehend at that level. The man walked out of the gate and vanished into the air till today. That is what we see in this country. Impunity has taken over everything in this particular country. There are a lot of things that we know. Within my limited years at the bar, I have seen a lot. Let us put up a pressure group, do it about to government, let the criminal aspects go the way they want to. If they want to appeal, okay, they can appeal, ask for extension of time, file the arguments, put the appeal, and get on to there. The question is, at the end of the day, what shall we get out of it? That is my concern. Because there's much more to it. There's much more to it. There's much more to it. And that is my take on this particular matter. I thank everybody that have stood the ground for 15 years because it was a risky venture that I ventured into. I was in America to brief the World Igbo Association, and I knew what came out there. Today, in the High Court in Nnewi, I was defending people that were handpicked because an area commander was killed in 2nd of December last year in my village, Orifite. They came and picked anybody that was at site and charged them to court. I was defending them, asking for the bail application. Exactly 15 years ago, I was on that side of the divide, defending the Igbo people, the family, or trying to appear for the families of those that are bereaved. It's a fortunate situation in this particular country. Head or tail, we are an endangered species in this country. Take it or leave it.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
Wow.
I wasn't really expecting that last bombshell, but bombshell it is. So, endangered species. Oyi, on that note,
yes.
I'll hand you over. Ooh.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yes, Chief Uche would like to
yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Very well, sir.
Yes.
Your closing remarks.
Words. Yes. Let me just conclude by thanking the organizers and by saying that let us use APO 6 to say a very big no to further extrajudicial killings in this country.
Yes.
And it's only by so doing that we can rightly say that the APO 6 should not die in vain. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. On that note, I thank everybody. Mazi Zoke, you've been a wonderful help today. Dozie, Chief Amobi Zelo, thank you very much for your efforts from 15 years ago up until this moment. We also thank Chief Uche San for coming on and staying on uninterrupted up to this point. Dr. San, thank you very much for quickly running to a good place where we can hear you effectively and efficiently. We thank everybody who joined us today, and we would promise that we will not rest on our oars like Chief Uche admonished us not to. We're not going to rest on our oars. We'll do whatever we need to do to make sure that the APO 6 stand as a monument, as a memorial for people not to carry out extrajudicial